For Christmas 2024, I gave my then podcast buddies Glenn and Haavard a piece of Bog-Oak just like this one, with a challenge to make something of it during 2025. Glenn made some really nice knife scales back in June, but both me and Haavard put it on the procrastination pile. Then came the autumn and James from Fix's Fingers had his chapel challenge where this would have fit in perfectly, but I still did nothing. Now I'm recording this on the 29th of December 2025, so at least I officially started this year. And what I'm making of the Bog-Oak? Well, the Oak Bog, of course. The piece of Bog-Oak that the slices come from was something my father, who is a farmer, dug out of a field a couple of years ago. When I found and joined the online making community back in 2019, I asked him if I had some wood more interesting than pine, so he gave me a box of mixed things. Some curly birch, some elm, and a chunk of Bog-Oak. And since then, most of it just sat on a shelf. I gave some of the Bog-Oak away, but I didn't do anything with it myself. It felt too nice, and I have this thing about having a hard time splurging on myself, like I subconsciously think that I don't deserve nice things. So for Christmas 2024, I tried to force myself to use at least a piece of it by issuing a challenge to Glenn from One Project and Haavard from Behind the Mistakes. But all that happened was having it nagging in my brain for the entire year. When James from Fix's Fingers issued his chapter challenge about getting back in the workshop and using that special piece of wood, I really thought I would light a fire under my butt, but I was too occupied with other things. So when Christmas vacation came, I felt that this was my last chance to at least in some ways accomplish the challenge. I tried using an X-Acto knife like Bog-Oak does, but the Bog-Oak would not have it. I tried another knife as well, but for shaping the outside, some 120 grit sandpaper glued on an ice cream stick worked best for me. The idea to make a toilet wasn't mine originally. I remember it as a suggestion in conversation on the podcast I co-host, Make Crude Mistakes, but I don't remember who said it. It was probably Glenn. Whoever it was, the reasoning was sound. Bog-Oak should be made into an oak bog. These carving tools came real handy when I needed to scoop out material. I bought them when I was like 14 and I have been holding on to them since then. And no, I have never sharpened them. Maybe I should do that someday. First I have to learn how to sharpen properly though. Luckily, the Bog-Oak cut like butter in this direction. But I got a bit carried away and put too much force on the wall, so when I sanded the inside of the bowl, a chunk of it fell out. After cursing for a good couple of seconds, I mixed some wood dust and glue and did my best to fill the gap. Good thing I hadn't cleaned up the work surface, even though this carving had been going on and off for a couple of days. Once the big piece was back, I found it easiest to dab some wood glue on it and shape it with some wood dust on a knife. The bog, or toilet, I'm trying to replicate is an EFS sign, a rather standard toilet here in Sweden. I make it in 1/20th scale, because I didn't have enough wood for 1/10. This is the point of the process where I normally stop. I mean, it's good enough and I'm increasingly scared of messing it up. But that way, nothing great will ever emerge. What would Bobby Duke or Alice Magnolia do? They would pause the build and do a silly joke. They would pause the build and do a silly joke. Joke. They would pause the build and do a silly joke. But then they would push on, so shall I. And if I mess it up again, I can fix it again. And if I can't, then so be it. In order to push on, I needed to spend some time in the model, to see the lines in person. I also remember that my wife got me this really nice leather apron that's perfect for carving, so this felt like a good moment to use it. But then someone else in the family needed to use the bathroom, and though we have 2 other toilets, this is the preferred one for all. Partly because it's the most comfortable toilet, but also that the floor is heated. The band-aid on my finger was not a carving incident, it was me smacking my finger into a vise while I was preparing wood weapons for my youngest. There have been a lot of wood weapons in production this Christmas, mostly assault rifles and submachine guns. The lid is the one piece where I felt I cheated, because I didn't even try to make it into 2 parts. The lid and seat became one, both because I couldn't figure out how to easily make them separate, and because it doesn't matter because the lid will always be down. This is a pet peeve of mine, I very much dislike open toilets. I think it stems from one time when I dropped a new toothbrush in the sink and it went down one side, up the other and died with Olympic precision into the toilet bowl. I was a student at the time and losing a new toothbrush like that was not fun. That was roughly the cost of a beer at the student bar, so from that day I always closed the toilet lid. For the hinge I used a piece of fabric. First I tried to fasten it with super glue, but that didn't work at all. So it went back to the trusty wood glue, which worked like a charm. I glued the toilet to the remaining part of Bog-Oak to give it an abandoned feel, like it was a piece of a bathroom torn out floating through space. I might have watched too much Stranger Things. To finish it off, I used boiled linseed oil, as I usually do, which gave the toilet a deep dark color. In Swedish, Bog-Oak is known as svart ek, black oak, so it felt rather fitting. And then it was just a matter of parking it on the wall of fame. Thank you so much for watching, and have a nice whatever you're having.